Hi everyone, this is Alon. Today we are going to talk about AWS S3 lifecycle transitions, including some of its hidden rules and cost traps. If you have used S3, you probably know that lifecycle transitions are supposed to save money by moving data to cheaper storage. But cloud engineers using lifecycle rules actually end up paying more, not because AWS is wrong, but because there are some hidden rules most people don't talk about. In this video, we'll uncover those silent traps. So first let's review S3 storage classes. So S3 has multiple storage classes. It's designed for different use cases with different features and pricing. You can see the list of storage classes here from standard to glacier. They go from warm state to cold state. This also means that they go from more expensive to the cheaper. So the warm data is accessed frequently, maybe every seconds or minutes or hour, but the cold data is accessed infrequently, maybe once a month, every 6 months, or maybe even a year. So the basic rule is very simple. The colder the storage you choose, the cheaper your storage cost becomes. Now, let's talk about what an S3 lifecycle transition is. An S3 lifecycle transition is simply a set of rules you define to move the object stored in AWS S3 bucket between the storage classes over the time. So you create the rules once and AWS handles the transitions automatically. You don't have to move any object or anything manually. For an example, you upload an object to a standard storage. You set a rule that says after 30 days, move this object to standard IA. And then after 90 days, move the same object to the Glacier. So once the rule is set, AWS performs these transitions automatically. That's what an AWS S3 lifecycle transitions is. The goal of lifecycle transition is to keep data in fast storage when it's needed and move it to the cheaper storage when the file gets older so that you can save money. Here's the first key concept you must understand before using lifecycle transitions. They work like a waterfall model. Objects can move only in one direction, from expensive storage to the cheaper storage. You can see in this example, object can move from standard to standard IA, or maybe standard IA to Glacier, or maybe from Glacier to deep archive. There is no lifecycle rule that moves object to backward. So if you suddenly need a file that is stored in Glacier storage to back in standard storage, you must first restore it and then copy it to standard, because AWS lifecycle transition does not support reverse mode. That is why lifecycle rules aren't just about cost optimization, they are the architectural decisions as well. Now let's look at some hidden transitions rule most people don't know. Here's the trap. Small files lose money. Every time you move an object using a lifecycle rule, AWS charges a transition fee. For an example, moving thousands of objects cost you $0.01 to standard IA, similarly $0.05 to deep archive. So here's the catch. The fee is charged per object, not based on the object size. That means moving 10 KB of files cost you same as moving a 10 GB of files. So the question is, when does this become a problem? Okay, if you have millions of small files, the transition fee can easily cost you more than the storage saving. Here's another surprise. Using a lifecycle transition, you cannot immediately move object from standard storage class to cheaper storage classes like standard IA or Glacier as soon as you upload them. AWS enforces objects to stay in standard storage class for a minimum of 30 days before they can be transitioned. This means that even if a file is never accessed or they are just a backup, you still have to keep it in a standard storage class and pay the full price. But there is a workaround as well. If you already know that a file won't be used immediately, you can upload it directly to a cheaper storage class instead of waiting for the lifecycle transitions. Now, this one is the most expensive trap. Every cold storage class has a minimum storage duration. As you can see here, standard IA has 30 days minimum, Glacier Instant has 90 days, and Deep Archive with 180 days. What this means is simple. Once an object moves into one of these storage classes, you are charged for the full minimum period, even if you delete it early. For an example, if you move a file to a Glacier Instant Retrieval and delete it after 2 weeks, that is 14 days, you still have to pay for 90 days. So, if your data lifecycle is uncertain, cold storage can quietly increase your cost instead of saving money. So, when do lifecycle rules actually work? They work best when three things are true: the objects are large, retention is predictable, and the access patterns are stable. Every lifecycle rules is a trade-off between cost, access, and flexibility. So, before you automate anything or design your S3 storage strategy, make sure you understand the hidden rules behind the lifecycle transitions. I hope this video helped you. If you found it useful, I would really appreciate your feedback so that I can improve. Thanks for watching.